I'm Michael Bryant, and we are today looking back at a couple of cases involving caretaking gone horribly wrong. You remember Georgia versus Jennifer and Joseph Rosenbaum? This was the case involving the death of little Layla Marie Daniel, the 2-year-old that they were fostering, and also abuse to the 4-year-old Millie, who they were also fostering. And so there were tons of counts against them. They were tried together. This became a pivotal point in this case. How could one attorney represent both mom and dad, foster mom, foster dad, when as the case unfolded, it became pretty clear that they were kind of at odds on who actually did anything to abuse the child and ultimately kill one of those children. So this verdict could go on and on and on because there were 49 counts before this jury. So we gave you the high points there. The ultimate verdict leading to a penalty of life without parole plus 40 for Jennifer Rosenbaum. The foster mom and foster dad got 50 years, 30 of which is to be spent in prison, and then a balance in some sort of probationary manner. Joseph Tully, criminal defense attorney, is with me now from San Francisco. Sir, thank you very much. I appreciate it. This was a crazy case that, as it unfolded, became more and more outrageous in terms of, if nothing else, representation. Do you remember the case? And what was your initial reaction when hearing that the defense attorney was handling both of these defendants?
I thought we were watching an appeal in live action. There was such obvious conflict. I have no idea why the judge allowed the defense attorney to represent both people. Clearly, the husband needed an attorney who would sit there and point the finger at the wife and say, hey, she did it, not him.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it was an all or nothing proposition. You know, I guess the attorney figuring if I can get her off, obviously the husband's going to get off and everybody's fine and happy. So as you suggest, a huge appellate issue, which I fully expect we're going to see coming down the road here. You know, when this case began, the initial evidence included a conversation between the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, and the police. So I think that gives us kind of a foundation for how this investigation began. Joseph, listen to me as we listen to this. Sergeant Wayne Harrison talking about the conversation he had initially with Jennifer Rosenbaum when she tried to explain what she said happened that day. Joseph Tully, one of the key case points was the one that made people say, really? Was this choked on chicken explanation? Because as the case unfolded, where's the chicken? It became a real problem. Remember that?
I do, yes. Choking when there's internal injuries and improper Heimlich is fastly becoming the my dog ate the homework or I got these bruises by falling down the stairs. It's just something that was really incredible and nobody bought it, and obviously the jury didn't buy it. Yeah,
and as we learn more and more about the history, remember these kids were only with the Rosenbaums for about 4 months, and we started to learn more and more about problems prior to the actual death of Layla Marie, problems that the 2-year-old suffered and problems that Millie, the 4-year-old, suffered. And some of the information came through the voice of an ER doctor who really had the first opportunity to examine Layla. So let's listen to some of that testimony. Dr. Charles Evans, the guy who is treated, he says, I don't know, 100,000 ER patients, never seen anything like this. Joseph Tully, he described, really head-to-toe bruising. He described when he finally had the bone scan done, old broken bones that had already healed. In fact, her arm was a little bit kind of cattywampus from having been healed without any sort of treatment at some time. So this really laid the foundation for this jury that something more than choking on chickens going on here.
I agree. In law, what the prosecuting attorney does is try to get you, or what an attorney does in trial is try to get the jury to marry the facts with the law. And here they have the law, there's murder charges, and then they prove their facts. They prove that there is long-term abuse going on, long-term systematic abuse. And the jury really only had one conclusion that it can make given these facts.
And the jury, from the moment the defendants sit down, they're eyeballing these defendants. And as they start to hear more and more of this gruesome testimony, this evidence from doctors and healthcare providers, they're seeing x-rays like that, they're trying to decide whether these defendants, based on what they see in front of them, could have done these things.
I agree. And they're also affected by the fact that this was a helpless, innocent victim. You had a child who had done nothing wrong, who was the victim of very substantial physical abuse. So they're not only thinking, but they're also feeling. I mean, juries aren't supposed to feel under the law, but they do. They're human beings.
Yeah, and they can't, as they say, check their common sense at the door. They have to, put real world facts to real world situations. So that's just part of their process. You know what, Joseph, I did a little research when this thing began, and it had to do with choking deaths, young children choking deaths, and what things cause those deaths. A small child, meaning under 4, dies about every 5 days from a choking death in this country. So that's about 73 or so a year. And big chunks of meat or cheese is about the 3rd leading cause. So as a defense, not a horrible idea?
It's not a horrible idea, but I mean, the defense attorneys probably didn't invent it out of whole cloth. It's probably what their clients told them.
Well, if they were presented with that story, the defense, obviously has to present their client's story. They had something to work with here.
Exactly, yeah. They had something to work with, but the facts didn't bear it out. Again, the children suffered from long-term traumatic injury. That doesn't happen with a one-off choking event.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, when they did the ME and the results showed no chicken anywhere in the airway, nothing to suggest that was a choking hazard. Where's the chicken? You just didn't find it. Okay, stand by, Joseph. We're going to get further into this case. This is the Georgia case versus the Rosenbaums, Jennifer and Joseph. This is Law and Crime. Stay right where you are.